Hello and welcome to Paint With Me. This is an abstract painting that I did at night after a long break from painting, way too long. Sometimes that happens. There's a bit of a drought because of time restrictions, work or family obligations, sometimes just stress. And I, at least, I know for myself, tend to forget the thing that can give me some stress relief, which is painting or music or anything creative, but especially doing abstract painting. So this is really not a warm-up, but just a reintroduction into doing my favorite style of painting, abstract, using different tools, not that many tools. It's a very simple style of abstract that I do. This one doesn't have that many layers, just kind of the basic layers that I usually do. So I'm putting some tape down to create a border. I love a frame. Unless I'm working on canvas. When I'm working on canvas, of course, I don't tape anything off, and I use the canvas ends as the border, usually paint them the main color that I use. So just simply making a frame here, and also it helps to keep the painting steady so that it's not moving around and sliding around as I'm painting. I tend to use pretty thick layers of paint, and I like to do a lot of scraping, which you'll see later. So I do need a steady surface. I'm not a fan of using an easel because then I can't do any scraping with the way that I tend to work. So I'm just gathering my materials at this point, which I had to go fish some of them out of my little storage boxes that I have. I live in a very small space, so when I'm not painting, I like to put things away just to clear the space, but then that sometimes leads to not having access to my tools. But I made the time this evening, gathering my favorite brushes. They're pretty well loved, I like to call them. I love well-used brushes. I love new brushes too, but well-used brushes just create more texture, and you feel like you have more freedom to really work the paint in without being too careful or worrying too much about what you're doing with the brush bristles. And my favorite paint of the moment, Liquitex, and this is I'm forgetting the name, but it's the Flow. It's usually what artists who like to do drip paintings use. It's very, very liquidy, however, very opaque. I decided to try these over the summer and absolutely love the matte quality. They go down easy. So I'm using my favorite color to start most paintings with, which is a teal or aqua blue. That is just my favorite. When I started painting again in 2020, I discovered that color, teal, or an aqua color, and it just took over my palette. I always have to have some version of it when I'm doing an abstract painting or floral painting, which is another style that I really like to do, abstract florals. So I'm starting with a layer of paint. Sometimes I'll do mark making with a pen or a pencil but I just wanted to get some paint down. It just feels nice to feel that smooth texture go down, especially after a long break of not painting. And as I paint, I don't really, and I did speed it up here because this is just laying down the base. I don't really have in mind a specific, especially when doing my style of abstract that I like to do. I tend to use the same shapes once I do get to the mark making, once the paint dries. And the only thing about this Liquitex paint, which I love, if you are very sensitive to smells, it does have a very strong scent. It is an acrylic paint. It has a very strong aroma if you have sensitivities. Just pausing my sound and the voiceover that I will do later. Since I started painting again, I don't know what it is, but turquoise blue for me is a favorite starting color, a favorite base. Blue in general is a neutral. It's on the neutral side, but without being black, without being too dark. It can be layered over. But there's something about turquoise that I go back to again and again, and I have so many versions of the Liquitex, also Amsterdam acrylic turquoise colors. I just gravitate. Sometimes I mix my own. This is a mix of, I believe, Amsterdam acrylic, one of their turquoise blues, and some black and white. And I just love using turquoise as a base. And the painting might not even end up being turquoise in the end. Sometimes I actually paint over, or you can only see a little bit peeking through, but I just, something about laying it down, I love it. So jumping ahead, as you can see, there's a lot more marks. I'm using a butter knife that I added to my toolbox a while ago, and just doing some scraping to create texture. Of course, the butter knife has those nice little ridges and it adds texture. So the style of abstract that I like to do, I started to do in 2020, and I first discovered doing on larger canvas. I love working in large form because there's so much space to create all kinds of different shapes and atmosphere and mood. And I'll show you two of the big originals that I did in this style. And then it's looking closely at details, as you'll see later. I like to use a white gel pen or a black pen and go in and add small details that you have to really look around the canvas to see, or even if it's a small one, your eye just has to travel a lot because you notice, oh, look at that, or maybe you didn't see it initially. I love making small details. Sometimes I put words or song lyrics in spots that your eye has to find. It's just a simple way to create interest in an abstract. And I love lines. That's what I'm doing here now with, this is another Liquitex, the soft body paint in a dark, I believe that's blue. I'm not sure if that's aquamarine or phthalo blue that I'm using. But I love creating different layered shapes and lines, again, that your eye has to follow, almost like a map. One of my paintings, when I shared it, someone said it looks like a city from far away and close up. And that's exactly what I like. Each one has a different look. Some look more like something in nature, and other ones just have the look of a city or a map that your eye is following. But it's just a style that I keep gravitating to, that I enjoy. And the Liquitex paint, by the way, is the Liquitex Basics Acrylic Fluid. So it's the basic, it's not the professional grade, but if you use Liquitex, you know that even their basic paints are absolutely stunning. The color and the vibrancy is just as good as the higher grade paints, especially the matte. I love a matte finish, and I love very opaque paint, so that if you don't want to, you don't have to lay down a lot of layers. But I also do love a lot of layers as well. So sometimes I will use the thicker, heavy body paints, especially if I feel like working with a knife or a spatula and laying paint down that way. That sometimes is extremely enjoyable. And that's another way of scraping and creating texture when you're using a thick, heavy-bodied paint. So I grabbed my pen here, my gel pen, because this paint dries so quickly that in some spots I could start to add some of that detail. And my favorite shape, I love drawing in little raindrops or teardrops in the darker spaces in the painting, and then creating more lines so that the eye has something to follow. And it really did feel good to make this painting. I had a good weekend with friends, connecting with friends, and doing some volunteer work. And then I had some free time, which does not always happen lately, and decided I need to get my paint groove back, because I would like to start making a bigger collection of paintings, especially with the specific styles. Now that I've been painting again for at least 3 or 4 years again, I know which styles I keep gravitating to. This is one of them. And again, another one is abstract florals. For a while I was doing landscapes. I do enjoy those, but there's something about those abstract florals as well. I can make just a bunch of those. I can paint those and continue to paint those again and again and still enjoy it. It doesn't get boring to me. And also with this style, it does not get boring to me, because each one looks different by the time it's done. So if there's a style that you keep gravitating to, there's a reason. And if you enjoy it, why not continue to do that while you're also learning other methods or trying other styles or ideas? It is good to keep things fresh, but if something is enjoyable, then why not continue to make that style? And it also can become your signature. People will recognize your paintings based on your signature style. So I did speed this up again because I'm adding details, and it does take a while as my eye looks around to see where I want to add more details or sometimes add more paint. Actually, for this one, I also did grab a colored pencil, a blue, just a primary blue colored pencil, and added some more little blocks of darker blue to it. I don't always use colored pencil. It's not my favorite medium. However, sometimes it can come in handy, especially when layering. So this was a very enjoyable painting to make. I definitely need to keep my materials out for stress relief. I'm leaving in 3 weeks for a trip to Italy. I'll be really living there for about a month. 3.5 weeks, really, but that's about a month. And it's something that I've wanted to do for many, many years, a long time. But at the same time, it's stressful. Do I have everything? Do I need something that I forgot? All of those stresses start to float around in the back of the mind. So anything to quiet them and give me joy while I think of my plan and kind of tighten up my plans really is helpful. So there will be more videos of painting and paint with me and chats like this, and also some videos directly from Rome. I'll be in Rome at the end of October till about the middle of November, so I'll definitely be posting more videos of painting, but also some videos right in the center of Rome, which, as you know, or you may not know, but Italy as an art center is beautiful. So here's an example of the little details. You can see that, especially if this was a bigger painting, your eye just would kind of wander around because you start to notice these different shapes and little details, and your eye follows them, especially if you see little words pop up. Then you start looking around, is there anything else? A couple of months ago, I went to the local art museum here in Buffalo. It's the Albright Knox Art Gallery. And once we got to the contemporary art, the abstract artists, it was so interesting to see even a monochrome painting. Your eye just, at least mine, I just wanted to keep looking because you would notice the different textures and little details that you would not see maybe if it was a photograph of the painting. You really start to appreciate abstract art for the little details. And here's an example of this style. These are 2 large canvases. I believe I did these in 2021 during lockdown. And that's the cityscape one on top, and the bottom one reminds me of like icicle caves for some reason. I think it's the drips, the paint drips. But again, there's so many small details that when you get up close, and textures and lines that your eye gravitates to, and you keep looking around the canvas, especially because it's a bigger piece, you look longer because you want to see, are there any other details that I maybe didn't notice? So these 2 are on my wall in my apartment, and I really enjoy looking at them myself. The small details, and would love to make more in this style. So thank you for painting with me. Maybe you painted something yourself and taking a look at my process, and I'll see you in the next one.